Good Friday evening, everybody. We are back. It's the Late Night on Campus. We're live June 23rd, 2017. I am your host, the Big Man on Campus, as always, joined by my co-host, Joe Duffy. Joe from OffshoreInsiders.com. How you doing tonight on this late June Friday?
Jeff, I'm doing fantastic. You said it's 2017. That explains quite a few things.
Yeah, I guess we're all getting older, right? That's what that means.
We are. That explains his gray hair.
Joe, is it me, and Donnie Roadside and I talked about this, is it just me, or are the days extremely long nowadays?
It's hard to say. It depends on what time my kids wake me up. Yeah, they are getting longer, obviously. I'm one of these people who likes the sun late at night, where a lot of people, they don't like it. I'm all into this daylight savings time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't. It just seems like these days are just so long. I don't know why. I guess around like the first day of summer, it's always particularly long. But yeah, I guess it's just me, or maybe I don't know. But we're back as always on the air here. Plenty to do tonight. We'll go over what happened in baseball today and going on right now. We'll chat a little bit about the NBA draft and give a couple grades on some of the teams and what we thought. Even look ahead to next year a little bit, Joe. Talk a little bit of Rookie of the Year, future odds, maybe even playoff odds, championship odds, all that sort of thing. So let's get into it. Joe, I have to ask, how was your week?
Very good week. Can't complain. It's a little rainy around here. I like to walk. I mean, I got a treadmill here, but I prefer to walk outside. But, it's been a pretty solid week. Nothing bad's happened. Some good things have happened.
Good. Very good. Yeah, I know it's been kind of thunderstorming and things like that. So, that's summer weather. But welcome to everyone out there on the chat box. I'm just trying to get this link to load on the Twitter. Bobby, Jim, Joe, Susano, Thomarino, Matthew, Kyle, Mark, everyone out there, everyone listening, we appreciate it. Hit the like button if you're out there. Tell your friends, tell your family. If you're interested in calling in, feel free. Voicemail is always open to you. 717-220-3358. We've had some odd calls lately. Some trolls are starting to get a hold of the voicemail, but nonetheless, still fun either way. We'll get to those a little bit later. Joe, let's jump into today, see what happened. First of all, let me ask you, you're on a couple different games tonight. I do know you. I remember you telling me you were on the Cubs tonight.
Yeah.
This one is final down in Chicago. Actually, where was this game?
It's in Miami.
Urena was very good tonight, Joe. 6 innings, does not give up a run, only gives up 5 hits, couple walks, but fairly efficient. And, Joe, this is the same song and dance with the Cubs. I mean, they start to look up. You start to think they're going to hit again. Then they go back into these lulls where they have several games in a row where they just can't hit out of anything.
That's true. They've definitely been the mark of inconsistency this year, and generally going against teams that are off of a blowout on the run line is a good play. But no team's been more disappointing than the Cubs. It looked like they were maybe starting to turn it around. I think most people, I still believe from this point on, they're going to win that division and probably win it handily. But it looks like this hangover is lasting a while. And in some respects, it's not that surprising. But I did think it was a pretty good situation tonight. But it's tough to win, especially, and I had them on the run line, which I guess in a sense was good because they don't have to worry about any juice. But you're not going to win on the run line when you don't score any runs. You're not even going to win on the money line when you don't score any runs.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, yeah, it's just weird with the Cubs right now. Urena can be really hot and cold. He was particularly good tonight. And, it's not like the Marlins were unbelievable offensively. I mean, they only scored 2 runs, and they only had 3 hits. I mean, the runs were scored off of a sac fly and a home run by Giancarlo Stanton. But, again, just a very pedestrian outing for the Cubs tonight. So a loser if you were on the Cubs. Washington and Cincinnati, an interesting game here, Joe. Cincinnati jumped out to a 5-1 lead, and it's tied. You look at kind of what went on in this game, kind of crazy. I mean, you look at Steven Strasburg, he got jammed up here pretty early in this game. He's had some trouble at home, Joe. I mean, that's kind of been the growing problem with Steven Strasburg. He's been pretty good on the road, but at home he's just not been very good. And then you look at the Reds. Castillo, he gave up a couple runs, but then Michael Lorenzen came in. He gave up some runs, Peralta as well. So kind of a high-scoring game, which I think a lot of people thought. I mentioned on the show today I kind of like the team total over 5.5 for the Nationals. I guess it's looking decent. As long as they can win this game, we will be a winner on that. But any thoughts on this one? Do you have anything here?
I'm actually glad I didn't, because more times than not, I probably would have had Cincinnati in this game, and I did see where they blew that lead. But yeah, Strasburg, 95 pitches, doesn't even get into the sixth inning. His ERA for the year is only 3.57, not so great for a guy who is an ace. But Washington, look, we've seen them in previous years. They've disappointed, so they get a long history of being a pretty good go against. But yeah, I was relieved that I didn't have Cincinnati here, because it's usually the type of situation where I'd go against an underdog. I've gone against Washington at home a few times this year, but no, I did not have that. But in baseball, it does seem that betting that live line, once the favorite falls behind, and I don't have the, I get great software, I don't have the data to prove this, but it does seem that, especially betting against or betting with those big favorites at home on the live line when they fall behind by a few runs, to me, it does seem like a pretty darn good bet.
Say that one more time, Joe. You kind of cut out on my end. What was that?
Yeah, I don't know. You might have one. What I was basically saying, and although I have great software, I don't have any software that can track live betting trends, betting on the live line. But it does seem to me that if you bet on a home favorite, a team that started the game as a home favorite, and they fall behind by a few runs early, betting them on the live line, where they're usually an underdog, would probably turn a pretty good profit based on, my observation, without really studying it, without having the software to 100% prove that.
Yeah, no, I actually think someone's asked about that on the show before, kind of what, that'd be interesting if you find that out. I don't know who would even be able to find that. What do you think of the Leafs? I don't talk about hockey. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you one player on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Does Ty Domi still play for them? He's Albanian. That's the only reason I know him. We lost Joe Duffy. We'll have to get him back. Should be back any minute. But
I did. Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
I think it was my fault. I had to turn off that Wi-Fi and make sure it went to a straight line. Hopefully, if it was on my end, it's fixed now.
All good. Yeah, somebody asked me about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I said I don't know anything about hockey. Does Ty Domi still play for them?
His son's playing.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, the only reason I know him is because he's Albanian like me. So that's the only reason I know Ty Domi. But yeah, I don't know shit about hockey.
He's a scuffler like you too.
Yes, I remember he did jump into the penalty box, if I'm correct. Somebody jumped into the penalty box on him down in Philadelphia, I remember. Texas and New York, Joe, are scoreless in the fifth inning. A pitcher's duel here between the two Japanese pitchers, Tanaka and Darvish. And I'll tell you what, Joe, as a Yankee fan, it's nice to see Tanaka, if just for tonight, pitching pretty well. Rangers have had problems, Joe, on the road, hitting consistently. We know the Yankees bullpen has had some problems lately. They need Tanaka to kind of go deep into this ball game. He's at 63 pitches in the fifth inning, so I'm hoping we can get at least to the seventh inning. But a score, or not a game for scoring fans. One of probably the only unders we'll see tonight. A pitcher's duel here. What are you on in this game?
I do have the Yankees, and in fact, it is basically a regression to the mean angle that says that when a pitcher has at least 6 starts, but he has a much worse ERA to the season, he's a good play, and it makes sense to me. And certainly dollars, what it says is, look, if they're sticking with somebody despite a bad ERA, he must be a pretty darn good pitcher, and that the system says that there will be a regression to the mean. So I do have the Yankees. Obviously, Tanaka's holding his part, but I need for his teammates to hold up their end of the agreement.
Yeah, this has been a fairly pedestrian game. I mean, 5 innings, 3 hits combined. So very, very quick for the most part. I think there was a delay in this game, if I can remember correctly. Joe, the Baltimore Orioles just continue to flounder. And, I don't want to be the guy that said it, but I know one of our listeners mentioned this is one of the worst teams in baseball. And I think on paper that might be a little too much, but right now this team is really bad. I mean, they've given up 5 or more earned runs in 20 straight games. Their pitching staff is an absolute dumpster fire. And you look at tonight, another horrible outing from this team. It is 15-5 in Tampa Bay, and we still have a couple innings to go here. It is not good for Baltimore Oil fans right now.
Yeah, and when you got 3 pitchers that pitch tonight and all of them have an ERA above 4 and 2 of them above 5, that's true. And they've been even more atrocious on the road, and that may or may not be a great handicapping angle. In fact, I looked up some stuff on that this week, but they have definitely been a dumpster fire on the road this year for sure.
Yeah, and I get that, sometimes, you kind of got to play out the string, I guess, as long as you can't really send people down because you still have to. I mean, you're still a team that has to play games. It's only June, but you look at Ubaldo Jimenez and Chris Tillman. I mean, it's hard to envision these two up for very long. I mean, they're getting crushed right now. And you look at Jimenez tonight, 2 1/3, 9 earned runs, 4 walks, and 2 home runs. Is there ever a night where he doesn't get crushed when he pitches?
No, that's true. But, I guess they figured he's got a little bit of a track record that eventually he'll pitch his way out of it. But as you said, it's not like they have a bunch of other alternatives to go to. So I think at this point, they're just going to try to see if he can pitch his way out of this incredible slump he's in. He's got a 7.26 ERA through 65 pitches or 66 pitches tonight and couldn't even get out of the second inning. So yeah, he is atrocious. And those people who like going against struggling pitchers, he is definitely at the top of your list.
Yeah, he's been a guy that I think for a long time has been really bad. If you're interested in calling in during the show, feel free, 717-220-3358. We did get a couple calls. We'll get to those a little bit later. Joe, the Boston Red Sox are threatening again. It's 7-4 up in Fenway. And I want to shout out one of the listeners who mentioned they would play well tonight due to the David Ortiz retirement ceremonies. I don't know if it had anything to do with them, but they are scoring some runs tonight, which they needed. I mean, this team lacks power, which we've talked about, but they jumped out to a big lead. But like always, Rick Porcello has kind of made it a little bit interesting. He's out of the game now, clearly, but if you're sitting on a Boston run line, this game's getting a little too close to call. The Angels are a scrappy team, Joe, aren't they?
They are. I have the Red Sox myself tonight. I do see they have a couple guys on. It's funny you should say that. There's a guy who's been in this business a long time, decent handicapper, very nice guy, Oscar Dooley. He's big into those intangibles. He really believes, just like your guy on Twitter said, that teams get a little extra motivated when they're retiring the number of a player or honoring, that guy. I don't think it didn't work for the Yankees this year, as I remember on that Sunday night game. I think they lost when
We were talking about that. We actually made that point earlier when they retired Derek Jeter's number, and they got absolutely crushed.
Yeah, they did, and they fell behind early. But I do know one guy who's a professional handicapper who buys into that stuff. I did have the Red Sox tonight myself. Had nothing to do with that, but I would love to go into the 9th inning with a little bit more than a 3-run lead. So hopefully some of these ducks on the pond.
Looks like we just got we got something good here from Santa Leone. I'm about to see here. It's, I'm having a little bit of trouble with it loading here, Joe. But Boston has scored. I don't know how many runs. But
9-4, yes.
9-4. So looks like maybe a double or triple of some sort. A double by Santa Leone. So 9-4. Red Sox in the bottom of the 8th. So that looks like that one's pretty much over here. Minnesota, Joe. What an outing from Mejia tonight. Very impressive. And again, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Trevor Bauer is a fucking bum. He's a horrible pitcher. He has no business laying 180 ever. And, when you're given this Twins team who, Joe, tonight will be 21-9 on the road, that kind of number, it's hard to not bet that. You look at Bauer tonight, another very poor effort. 6 2/3, gives up 5 earned runs and a home run, which it's just kind of his MO. Mejia was very good. Bullpen was very good as well. A nice job tonight for the Twins, who've been scuffling lately.
And we've been on a few times, I think, when Trevor Bauer is pitching. I know you're not a big fan of his, so he certainly proved you right tonight. He did throw 111 pitches, almost made it into the 7th inning, but struggled again. Unfortunately, I do have Cleveland, although on the run line, so I didn't have to lay the big lumber, but this one's going to explode in my face. So, but hopefully Boston will win for me.
We'll say this: a pretty pathetic outing though from the from the Cleveland Indians, though, from the plate. I mean, 3 hits tonight against Mejia, Duffy, Rogers, and Hildenberger. You're not exactly helping him out. So all around a poor effort tonight from Cleveland. And again, Joe, this is another team that, a little inconsistent. I mean, they've had their stretches, but another inconsistent effort. Atlanta is up 4-2 in the bottom of the 7th against the Milwaukee Braves. Michael Fultonavich, Joe, was very good tonight. He went 5 innings, only gave up a run. Jimmy Nelson hasn't been too bad either. He gave up 4 runs, but just Atlanta doing enough. Pitching's been good tonight. Fultonavich is one of the nice bright lights, I think, for them. He's been pretty impressive over his career.
They have, when they brought him up, he's one of these guys who's a great prospect, and he's had his flashes, and I know he went back down, but he's a guy that they have very high hopes for. The proverbial guy they say has great stuff. But yeah, Fultonavich is supposed to be one of their pitchers of the futures, one of their, the newest young guns, and we'll see. But the Braves are definitely high on him for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I hate all Philly teams, period. All right. Thank you, Big Show. We appreciate that. Twins plus 215 tomorrow. Yeah, I don't think they're going to beat Kluber. That's a little bit different than Trevor Bauer. I
hate the Flyers, by the way, Jeff, to the guy who tweeted in. I agree with him with the Flyers.
I didn't know you didn't like the Flyers, really?
Yeah, there's a story behind that. Now, I'm a Ranger fan, so I grew up around Flyer fans. So, yeah, I have weird rooting habits for sure.
Gotcha. Joe, the White Sox are back to hitting like T-ball players again. They cannot, for the life of them, figure out Jarrell Cotton. They have 3 hits tonight, and they're getting shut out at home. Joe, I guess this is the problem with the White Sox. I backed them last night as a premium play, and it was a fantastic call by me. I did bet them tonight. It wasn't a premium play. It was just something I mentioned on the show. I thought it was a really good spot for them. Jarrell Cotton had been a mess. The Oakland Athletics are a mess. And Michael Pelfrey pitched very well. But this team is one of those teams where I guess you can't trust them too often. Kind of when you trust them, they kind of lay an egg, and that's what they're doing tonight.
Yeah, and I'm not counting my money while I'm sitting at the table, but I actually did have Oakland tonight, and really for the reasons you said, this fit into one of my really good regression to the mean pitching angles, where, as you said, Cotton hasn't pitched well and Pelfrey has, but according to my computer, this was a great regression to the mean chance where Cotton was a good percentage play. So, knock on wood, hopefully this will hold.
Yeah. Again, Cotton is now out of the game, and the White Sox do have a man on base and no out. So we'll see what happens. We'll update you in that one. Liam Hendricks in for Oakland. A low-scoring game, Joe, in St. Louis, which I really like this play tonight. I did take the under. A free play on the under in this game. Wainwright has been very, very good at home. Jefferson Tejon has been very good as well. But I guess I shouldn't count my money just yet because Daniel Hudson's in the game for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And if we've learned anything from these two teams, you never know. So I guess I'll kind of root this one in. I'm not feeling too good about it, though, with these bullpens. But a nice outing again tonight from Adam Wainwright.
Yeah, Wainwright's one of these guys who is a better pitcher than he's shown this year. So when you're talking about pitchers that should be a lot better from this point on, Adam Wainwright would be high on the list. He's much better than he's shown with that 5.35 ERA. So this was no, I'm sorry, I actually do have St. Louis, and I got St. Louis tonight. And Wainwright is one of these guys I do think will be much better from this point on than he has been so far this year.
Yeah, it's just on the road. That's kind of been his issue, Joe. It's at Busch Stadium. He's been very, very good.
Yeah, and he'll be better. Look, he's been around the block. He's pitched in big games, and he's pitched in big games well. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think he'll be some good value on the road as well.
If you laid 220 with the Dodgers against a solid left-handed pitcher, I've got a bridge to tell you. Ridiculous line, in my opinion. Yeah, you've said that about 8 times today between both the shows. I don't think anyone laid it with the Dodgers. I know I didn't. I laid the run line. But, again, clearly you don't like the Dodgers. You've made that clear to us multiple times. I'm not sure it's something you have to keep reminding us. Again, I mean, it is. I mean, he doesn't like the Dodgers. He thinks everyone that bets the Dodgers are squares, and it's really just a shot at me. That's kind of what his angle is. He thinks I'm a square, so he thinks that by him continuing to say that, it'll be it'll be something that people will listen to. Again, I mean, they've absolutely murdered books at home, Joe. So I'll keep being a square. If that means me being a square because they win, I'm okay with that. Toronto's up 2-1 on the Kansas City Royals. J-Hap, very good tonight, along with, they got a couple runs here. I thought this would be a higher scoring game, Joe, than what we've seen. But J-Hap's been good. And Janus, surprisingly, has been pretty good as well. He had not pitched well in his several outings this year, but both these pitchers kind of in a duel, which I don't think anyone thought we'd see tonight from these two.
Yeah, I mean, look, Hap has been pretty solid in his career. He's one of these guys where he's not an overpowering pitcher, but he's been a very solid pitcher throughout his career. He's having another pretty good year with a 3.83 ERA. I didn't actually touch this side, so I don't really have a dog in the fight, but Hap's not a bad pitcher. Look, he's not an ace of a staff, but he'd be a good number 3, 4 starter on a lot of teams.
Yeah, no, and I remember when he was in Philadelphia, he was out in Seattle as well. Yeah. He's moved around, and he's had his share of decent years. Surprising, I know everyone predicted this. The Phillies are up 1-0 on the bottomless Arizona Diamondbacks. They just can't figure out Mark Leiter tonight somehow. And Mark Leiter, not to be mistaken with Al Leiter, is his nephew, but the Phillies are up, and Patrick Corbin has 53 pitches in 3 innings. So this could be a long night for Diamondback backers. I am on the Arizona Diamondbacks run line tonight, Joe. Anything in this fight?
I don't have anything in this fight, but yeah, it is quite early, and certainly Leiter's capable of giving up quite a few runs. And as you said, yeah, he's got 19 pitches so far, not quite as much as Corbin, but both of these teams are going to go to the bullpen. And, it's a tough place to pitch in Arizona, so I wouldn't worry about it too much if you're an Arizona backer at this point.
Letdown spot for Arizona. I was on Phillies, told you, big man. It's a 3rd inning, and how's it a letdown spot? What does that even mean?
Yeah, I don't believe in baseball. There's a lot of letdown spots.
There's no letdown spot. You play every day. What do you mean a letdown spot?
I agree. I agree. I mean, I do use that in basketball, and I base it sometimes on, the travel schedule especially. But I'm not a big baseball letdown guy. But, maybe he's making some type of reasonable argument. But no, in over 162 game schedule, I don't think teams are going to get all that high or all that low.
Yeah, exactly. Colorado, Joe, has not scored. They were threatening against Alex Wood, but like Alex Wood seemingly always does, he gets out of it, striking out Mark Reynolds and Ian Desmond. Mark Reynolds, a guy that can be really infuriating. I know Donnie Wrightside hates Mark Reynolds, and for good reason. I mean, he always seems to strike out in big situations, though he has had a pretty good year this year. Very early in that one, it is the top of the first. Alex Wood, though, with 25 pitches in the 1st inning. That's a great series, Joe. I mean, 2 of the better teams in baseball right now. Big series for both these teams. It should be fun.
Yeah, Reynolds, he's having a good year, 558 slugging percentage, but we always remember when they make big outs when we're on them. But it should be a very good series, but we certainly know the Dodgers. They've got the pitching for sure, even though some people say you're crazy if you lay 200 with the Dodgers at home. But yeah, should be a good, solid series.
Back to the Diamondbacks for a moment. If you're the Diamondbacks in the offseason, again, look, he's a really good player, but don't you feel like it might be time to move on a little bit from Pollock? I mean, this guy never plays. He never plays, ever.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I haven't really looked that far ahead as far as to the off season, but yeah, I mean, why not?
I mean, he missed all of 2016. Yeah. He's barely played this year. I mean, he's a great player, but he's never in there. I mean, at what point are you going to say, you know what, maybe this guy's just damaged goods? I mean,
yeah, and the proverbial change of scenery.
Right. Couple more here, Joe. We have Detroit and San Diego. They're scoreless. Michael Fulmer against Luis Perdomo. Supposed to be Denison Lamet, but he was scratched. Perdomo going tonight. Fulmer I like, but just don't seem to ever have success when I bet on him. So I've stayed off this one, but should be an interesting game here. Anything on this, Joe?
I did not touch the game, but, as you said, Fulmer's been a very solid pitcher this year, but it's not a game that I had any strong opinion on either way.
Very good. I think you're overreacting to Pollock. I'm actually not. Actually, many reporters out in that area have written articles recently about it, and that it might be time. I mean, he's missed all of last year. I mean, he hasn't played this year really at all. It's too much. Houston is up, Joe, on Seattle. Felix Hernandez was welcomed back with a home run from our friend Jose Altuve. Not a good start for Hernandez in this game. I didn't like the spot for him. I took the over in this game at 9.5. We'll see what happens. Joe Musgrove for Houston. Decent series out in Seattle with the way they've played lately, but we never know what we're going to get with Felix Hernandez at this point in his career.
I agree. I think Felix Hernandez is probably one of those pitchers because of his name. He's going to be overvalued, and most likely somebody that will be a go-against pitcher from this point on. And yeah, he's got an ERA just barely below 5. He's living on reputation at this point. But look, he's capable of turning it around. So I can understand how some people might feel the opposite. But I think all in all, from this point on, he probably, if you go against him every game, you'll probably make some money.
New York Mets up 1-0 against the Giants. Ty Blatch against who's going to Seth Lugo, I believe. Wilmer Flores with a single. Not much going on there. Who will win the AL East? I asked. Who asked that? Big Show. Look, I mean, I've said it again, and I'll say it before. I think the Yankees will win this division, but look, I mean, Boston's right on their heels. If they lose tonight, Boston will have the lead in the AL East after them going, 3-9 over the last 11 or 12 games or whatever it is. I guess, Joe, when you look at it, I mean, who's the better lineup to you? I mean, I guess it's, I guess it's almost kind of a, even. Pitching rotations are kind of even. Very similar teams here.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Red Sox, they are certainly built to succeed. They made those big offseason moves. They've got a very good lineup, very good pitching staff. With Pedroia, Bogarts, Betts, they're pretty loaded. To think all in all, I mean, I'm not one of these people that makes official predictions at the beginning of the year, but I did think that Boston was probably the best team in the division. So I would say most likely the Red Sox in answer to the question. But like I said, from handicapping, I like to look at it more from a day-by-day to make those adjustments. But all in all, Boston is probably the better team. But I do think it's one of those cases where, you and I might be paying attention last week of baseball season to this division as much as we are to football. I think this could go straight down to the wire, but both teams will most likely make the postseason anyway. So,
exactly, agreed. Joe, it's time to talk a little NBA. Obviously, the draft kind of wraps up the season last night, and I know we spent some time at SBR on that. We did a video. I did pretty well with props, but it's time, Joe, to talk about winners and losers, and maybe look forward a little bit to the to next year. Look, obviously, I think that obviously on the surface, the first group to talk about is kind of the trade that was made, not necessarily the draft. I mean, the loser has to be the Bulls. I mean, the Bulls may be a top 3 worst team in the league next year. I mean, this team really looks bad going forward. I mean, you got Lauri Markkanen, who I thought that was a little early to take him at 7. And they get rid of Jimmy Butler, and they get obviously fleeced, also giving up the 16th pick. You would envision they're going to move on from Rajon Rondo or Dwayne Wade. I don't know about that. But just a poor trade if you're the Bulls. Definitely a loser here if you ask me, right?
I 100% agree, and thanks to them, Minnesota is the big winner. But look, it looked like the Bulls were clearly intent on rebuilding and getting rid of Butler, and that was questionable. And you're right, they didn't get all that much. I mean, Markkanen, he's a good player. He's a big guy. He's got a nice touch. I think he's going to be a solid player. But all of a sudden, Minnesota, I think, is a legitimate dark horse team.
Yeah, they are. And, they add Jimmy Butler. I do honestly, look, I don't mind the move sticking with Ricky Rubio. I think, and I've said it before, I think Ricky Rubio is better than people give him credit for. He's a very good point guard. He's enhanced his offensive game a little bit. He's added that little mid-range jump shot. Really is kind of a solid player in this league. You obviously had Jimmy Butler there. You already have Towns. You added Justin Patton, who I think in the draft pick, I really was high on him. Coming out of Creighton, he has a ton of possibility with his size. He's only 18 years old, a 7-footer, huge wingspan. You pair him kind of along with Towns and with Jimmy Butler. This is a really good team all of a sudden. They went from Joe 100-1 to win the NBA championship, and they're now near 60-1. So that's definitely moving. You're right, ton of energy for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, without question. I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the league. Don't forget, Mitchell Wiggins is or Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is a heck of a player.
That was his brother, Mitchell Wiggins.
It's his dad, isn't it?
Or yeah, maybe his dad. Yeah, you might be right.
Yes, it was his dad. I'm old enough to remember him, but yeah, Minnesota is a heck of a team, and really at 60-1, that's not all that bad. Except there's this. That means they would have to beat the Golden State Warriors. They're really part of the field. Still think it's the Warriors and obviously Cleveland, the two best teams. But at 60-1, Minnesota would be quite interesting with Wiggins, Towns, and certainly Butler. That's a phenomenal 1-2-3 punch. And my theory, my Adrian Barbeau theory. You got to be top heavy, and Minnesota is quite top heavy with that trade. And Wiggins and Towns, two excellent young players. They have a very high ceiling.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler has 2 years left on his contract. So obviously, a couple years, plenty of time here. It's going to be interesting if you're a Timberwolves fan, but that seems kind of like the growing trend with them lately. It seems like they're going to be good and whatever, but I think they definitely improved defensively and will improve defensively. Big man, how are you a Sixers and Yankees fan? I'm a full Philadelphia fan other than baseball. I mean, look, I like seeing the Phillies do well. I mean, I don't root against them, but growing up, I was a Yankee fan. I mean, my grandpa liked the Yankees. My first game I ever went to was at the old Yankee Stadium, and I've always been a Yankee fan, just kind of what I'm into. But I bleed everything else, Eagle Green and, Sixer, red, white, and blue. So I'm excited for Markelle Fultz. A couple other teams, Joe. I thought the New York Knicks, I mean, you have to wonder where their thinking pattern was. I mean, they passed on Dennis Smith, which I didn't really understand. I mean, you had the opportunity to take him. I had them taking him there. They take Frank Ntilikina, which, look, it's not a bad pick, but I just don't think it fit their team. I mean, he's a guy that is going to take some polishing before he comes over. Dennis Smith could help you right away. I think he'd sell tickets for you. I'd be a good guy to have on your team for a lot of years. And probably other than two other people, he was the best point guard in this draft. So for me, taking him was not taking him was a mistake. You also look at what they did in the second round. I mean, they take Damian Dotson out of Houston, which I don't think he's an NBA player right now. I mean, I thought he was more of an undrafted kind of guy, but a weird draft for the Knicks. And seems like I want to get your opinion. Donnie Wrightside and I talked about this, but what's Phil Jackson doing?
Yeah, I know. I'm not a big fan of Phil Jackson as a general manager. He's obviously a great coach. Look, going back to Carmelo Anthony, I've never been a Carmelo Anthony fan. I think that Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony are two guys that have great talent, and they're always going to make players worse. And yeah, the Ntilikina was a surprising pick. I think maybe he's trying to outsmart himself. Sometimes these international guys seem to have the bigger upside with his big wingspan. He could cause some matchup problems, although these, as we know, just in this draft alone, these point guards keep getting bigger and bigger. But, if he works out, he'll definitely cause some matchup problems with his size and his wingspan. But Phil Jackson as a GM, the whole Porzingis thing, look, I'm a Law and Order guy too, but if the worst thing you do is miss the outgoing, whatever they call that, the meeting at the end of the year. Meeting. Yeah, the exit meeting at the end of the year. I mean, come on. If that's the worst thing he does, you want to trade him because of that. I am not a fan of his, and I'm not a fan of anybody who thinks either Dwight Howard or Carmelo Anthony is the answer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're totally right. One of the worst run organizations in sports. The Sixers had a good draft. They took Fultz. Obviously, that speaks for itself. But, I didn't necessarily like what they did in the second round, kind of trading everyone away. But, at some point, they're going to have to get some kind of bench. I mean, the Mickey McConnell, the TJ McConnells and Nick Stauskises and Lawawu Cabarros of the world aren't going to get the job done. But I do like Jonah Bolden. I think that's a good pickup for them. He knows Ben Simmons. They know Ben, they know each other, kind of grew up together. I like that move. And, they kind of got someone and stashed him. A lot of people are talking like he's Porzingis, kind of a poor man's Porzingis. I guess we'll see. But, Joe, at some point, this team's going to have to address getting a shooter, and I think they have to do it in free agency. Is J.J. Redick the guy they have to target?
Look, now that they have, I guess they're calling them feds now in Philadelphia. They're big four young guys. Look, they certainly meet my top-heavy criteria, and they got 3 potential great players and then a 4th very good player. And all of a sudden, guys like a Redick or any free agent can start looking at Philadelphia as a legitimate team. Of course, it always comes down to, is Embiid going to be healthy? I think you and I and Donnie Rightside have talked about that before. And look, Simmons still hasn't played a minute in the NBA, and I think we only saw him a little bit in the summer leagues. I mean, is he going to live up to expectations? Fultz hasn't, but this is a team with a ton of potential. And if they're a big 3 and really they're big 4, and especially if Embiid can stay healthy, there's no question free agents all of a sudden will be looking at Philadelphia.
Yeah, one guy that I think a lot of people really didn't talk much about, and I think it just kind of is just like that old notion of the rich get richer. The Golden State Warriors went out and got Jordan Bell, who I think really just makes a ton of sense for that group. High-energy kid, very good defender. To me, one of the best defenders in this draft. High motor, going to give you a little bit offensively. He's exactly what I think they needed. And that's an organization that continues to win, and that's why, because they go out and get players like him. Obviously, they have a ton of talent, but adding little pieces like that is a really good spot. I mean, I love Jordan Bell. I wanted the Sixers to grab him. Very good player to add, and the rich get richer.
Yeah, a lot of people were very high on him defensively, and if it is possible for Golden State to have a quote-unquote need, it is to maybe add a little bit more defense. And they got just that, and they're doing it kind of the way the San Antonio Spurs did it, where they're just, not picking up guys at the top of the draft. They're getting guys in the middle and at the end of the first round that are going to turn out to be good players. But you're not the only person who thinks Golden State made out well getting themselves a defensive specialist to go against with, to go with one of the great offensive teams in the history of the game.
Yeah, I mean, because at some point you're going to have to start playing a little defense, and they address that considerably. Just a couple other significant picks that I did like, kind of in the first and second round. I think Sterling Brown is going to be a good player in the NBA for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's a kid that coming out of SMU was pretty unheralded. A lot of people didn't really talk much about Shemi Ojeleye or Sterling Brown. Sterling Brown is a really good defender, a kid that can spot up and shoot the basketball, a kid that I think a lot of people are going to need. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Danny Green type. I think he's a guy that from Milwaukee is really going to help that group. And look, I'll say this. I do like Nigel Williams-Goss to the Jazz. I think that's a good signing for them. I think he's a guy that, like I said before, reminds me a little bit of like Earl Watson or Matt Dellavedova, someone like that. A kid that has pretty good size. He's got to get a little faster, but a kid that, will play good defense in the league. If he can develop a jump shot, he could be a really good role player in the NBA. And I think a situation like the Jazz will help him. A kid that I wonder about in the NBA, Monte Morris. I mean, he can't score. I mean, again, you got to be able to score in the NBA. I know he's a very good point guard at the end of the day. He doesn't turn the ball over, but going from the NBA from college, I think it's going to be kind of different for him. He can't score, and it's going to hurt him. Did Oliver from Nevada go undrafted? Yes, he did. A lot of people went undrafted. Melo Trimble, Kennedy Meeks. A lot of guys did. Joe, anyone you kind of looked at and you like what they did?
I think Malik Monk could turn out to be the steal of the draft. I think he's like 16-1 on some of the early lines as far as being rookie of the year. The guy's a phenomenal athlete. He can shoot from outside. Of course, he's now going to be teammates with Dwight Howard, which, as I said, Howard has the ability to make guys worse. But still, Monk, I think talent-wise, has as big of an upside as anyone, and I think they did extremely well landing him with, what was he, the number 11 pick, I believe. So, that was certainly a heck of a pick. I was a Jonathan Isaac fan in college. I guess I love these big guys that got a little bit of mobility. And Orlando needs a little bit of everything. I think he could potentially be a steal and, Look, I think we were talking about this before. A lot of people think that Josh Jackson is going to be the best player in the entire draft long term. So I'm not so sure that I 100% agree with that, but he's NBA ready. He's a good fit for Phoenix. So yeah, he might be a decent shot at 9-1. But look, they've got a lot of good young talent there. So I think Phoenix did pretty well.
I'm surprised Caleb Swanigan was out there for so long. Thought he'd be a first-round pick. He was, Paul, a first-round pick. And look, I think when you look at Caleb Swanigan, I think what you have to point out, Joe, is that this kid lost 100 pounds from his freshman year to his junior year, I believe, which is, I mean, very dedicated. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I should take a page out of his book. Very impressive. I could see him maybe like Zach Randolph type. I mean, it's rare you see these big kids. You don't see much of them anymore. It's usually these long, lanky types like your John Isaacs. I will be interested to see what he does do up in Portland, which is kind of an interesting situation for him next to Jokic. That'll be interesting. One other team, Joe, I like, the Bucks. I mentioned Sterling Brown. Also went out and got DJ Wilson out of Michigan, who I am particularly high on. You pair him with the Greek Freak, and you all of a sudden have a pretty high-flying team for Jason Kidd in Milwaukee. And I'm going to tell you right now, I just would have liked them seen them address the guard position. I do think they should have maybe try to make a move for a Chris Paul, something like that, some kind of point guard. I think this team could really be kind of a sleeper in the East if they can go out and get some guards. But Joe, we look at some of the outrights next year. The NBA championship, the Warriors are minus 170, around 170 to repeat, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. Timberwolves at 66-1, Bucks at 66-1. Are you willing to take a shot yet with the the Timberwolves?
I think, as I said, they're more of a good long shot. Ultimately, it's the Warriors to win it. I certainly don't disagree with the odds makers. And really, the team that you and I like, the 76ers, it's Joel Embiid is that good if he can stay healthy. I mean, Joel Embiid, if he can stay healthy, is going to be one of the most dominant players in the league. Unfortunately, I don't know if he is going to stay healthy, but I was listening a little bit to Philly radio on the internet yesterday. Howard Eskin's son, I guess, they were asking whether or not the Sixers are going to make the playoffs. To me, whether or not the Sixers are going to make the playoffs is the same answer as, will Joel Embiid play at least 70 games and 30, 35 minutes? I think if the Sixers are healthy, there's no doubt in my mind they would make the playoffs. And I think they are a legitimate long shot, but they still just have a little bit of unproven talent. Now, I'm saying that if you want to, spend kind of your buffet money, you're in Vegas and you want to go with some long shots, maybe Minnesota or Philadelphia. But as far as going so far as to say that I think that they are right behind Golden State or Cleveland as legitimate contenders, no. But I think that they're reasonable long shots.
Yeah, Sixers at 250-1. Wow. To win the NBA championship. So, I mean, pretty good number there. Joel Embiid to be a first-team All-NBA, 6.75-1. So, if you're banking on him having a good year, you might want to get on that now. One guy that I do think, Joe, is a loser in this draft is our friend LeVar Ball, who I think we finally have to kind of get to the notion, Joe, that for LeVar Ball, the forefront and being in the media is all but over. I mean, your son's now drafted. He's in the big leagues now, and you can't gallivant around like you did at UCLA. And I want to say this again, and I want to be on record saying this. His son has no business at UCLA. The middle son has no business at UCLA. Zero, none. He's a guy that I don't think has any business in Division I, to be honest. And it's a shame that due to the fact that his name is Ball, he gets a spot at UCLA. You're going to see him and his younger brother both struggle. Luckily, his only son made the NBA because the other two have no shot at making the NBA. I'm going to tell you right now, Joe, I mean, I study recruiting pretty heavily. 66th best player at his position in the country, and he goes to UCLA. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that's disgusting. I mean, you have kids that work hard their whole lives that don't have the situations he does that should make it to the NBA and should make it to high-level institutions, and they don't. To give him a scholarship just because of that is pretty disgraceful.
Yeah,
so
Could have been a wink-wink agreement there. I don't know if LeVar Ball is going to be the loser in this situation. He'll find the microphones, and the microphones are going to find him. I don't think he's going to have any problem getting all the attention he wants. And look, there's this thing called Twitter, as we know, that people can make a name for themselves on Twitter. He'll get plenty of attention.
Yeah, I just think as far as, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him now to do much of anything. And as far as the youngest, I mean, he's a 2019 kid. I mean, at the end of the day, he has a lot of growing up to do. He is nowhere near. Look, could he go to UCLA and be good? Maybe, but he's got a lot of growing up to do. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see him go away. Joe, let's get to a couple calls, and then we will finish it up. Why will the younger ball be good? I want to hear everyone's point on why he'll be good, because I've seen him at camps, and he's been terrible. So I don't really know what you're talking about. The youngest son is very good. I don't think Big Man has done his research. They're in the top 10. I don't follow that much. Chino Hills, okay, they're in the top 10. Okay. I mean, they don't play anyone. But again, I don't think he's very good. We'll see what happens. It's too early to say he's good or bad. I know the middle son has a lot of trouble. Joe, let's finish it up with a couple voicemails, and we'll wrap it up tonight. You're all right with that, right?
Oh, you got it, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, guys. Great show. Second time calling in. I just want to talk a little bit about the NFC East. As far as who do you think is going to win that division, and who's going to be the worst in that division. And everybody else has won a Super Bowl in that division except the Eagles. What's up with that there, guys? Huh? Let's talk a little bit more about that division on today's show. Thanks for accepting my call. Bye-bye.
I got a feeling that was a little bit of a shot at Eagle fans that they haven't won anything. But, yeah, I mean, to answer his question, look, I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, for me, the Eagles are a team that secondary-wise, they're not very good, and that's concerning going into the season. They're going to be much better. Obviously, Dallas is going to be very good. I wonder, though, off a full year, what Dak Prescott will be, Joe. That's kind of something interesting going into the year. Will he have kind of that Robert Griffin decline? I would doubt it, but it could. What are your thoughts on that question?
It's very tough. I don't like the term sophomore jinx so much, but it's very tough where a guy comes in with the burden of expectations, and of course, there's plenty of film on him. Look, Ezekiel Elliott, he's a physical running back. Can he do it again? Can he stay healthy again? There's no question that Dallas on paper should certainly be the favorite. Dak Prescott, he played with a ton of poise. He was very impressive in that heartbreaking loss to Green Bay. Everything he did on the field says he is for real, but we've seen a lot of guys take a step back in their second year, and probably, if anything, Prescott might be more the exception to the rule. Last year he snuck up on a lot of people, but still, all in all, I would go with Dallas as the favorites.
Yeah, it should be a very good division, though. A lot better than what we've seen in years past. Giants will be obviously good as well, but Eli Manning towards the end of his career, best receivers for sure. Okay, Phil Marino. Yeah, again, we don't know what will happen. There's plenty of years left. I don't think Zion Williamson is half of what people think he is, the kid coming in that we all see on Facebook. The kids that are on Facebook generally don't translate very much into the – I mean, no one knew about Lonzo Ball until the beginning of the year. No one knew about him. The kids now have a ton of pressure on them. These young kids have a ton of pressure on them. Joe, if you go from virtually unknown and now your brothers have to be, you're kind of thrown into the limelight, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I don't know. We'll see. All I'm saying is let's give it some time here, and we'll worry about that when we have to worry about it. Joe, let's get to one more. This call is fairly long, but I do want to get to it because it is a call that a caller that listens to the show regularly. It's about a 2-minute call, but we'll get through it here.
Kyle Honeyset, probably going to go over the time limit here, but anyways, wanted to tell you thank you very much for the 2 soccer winners today, Dundalk and Cork City. Did not watch either game live, but I did see in the recap that looks like Cork City got a red card in the 67th minute. 2 yellows converted into a red. So very impressive by them. I'm sure they had to defend like crazy the final 23 minutes plus injury time. So thank you for that. Also wanted to say thank you for the NBA mock draft that you did. I believe you cashed, well, I shouldn't say cashed, but I believe that you were right on 7 of your first round selections, and definitely positive units on the night, almost 4 units, I believe. Really wanted to say thank you for that. I hit my big wager on Frank Mason under 48.5. I know I kind of was irritating you probably the last 2 weeks, asking you on a daily basis for the mock draft to come out. Probably almost sounds as annoying as Jim Beam asking about where your fat head's at, but nonetheless, thank you very much for that. Also wanted to point out that Donnie and yourself during the right side of campus earlier today were talking about the NBA draft winners, and in my opinion, one of the winners that I don't believe was mentioned was the Golden State Warriors. Sent $3.5 million or cash, whatever it was, to the Chicago Bulls for Jordan Bell. Is a really nice pickup for them. Give a defensive presence coming off the bench. Just the Warriors keep on getting stronger, it seems like. So just want to point that out there and get your thoughts. Started listening to the show about 3 months ago, and you were talking about going to Europe sometime, and with these soccer teams, definitely think you need to take a visit to Ireland and Scotland when you end up going. But I will try my best to listen to the show tonight. The girlfriend wants to see some fireworks for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's not even July yet, but I'll see what I can do. Take care.
Thank you for the call, Kyle. A little long, but very nice words. Yeah, a couple things I want to discuss, Joe, about his call, and then we'll get going. One, I don't understand the love affair with fireworks. I never have and never will. I think it's one of the biggest wastes of money I've ever seen in this country. It's amazing that we continue to waste our money on things that blow up.
I guess you didn't go to the pyrotechnics display they had at the Franklin Institute about 7, 8 years ago. I took my family there. I could go either way. It's kind of a family tradition. We've been doing the now, I guess they now call it Evesham Township. When I lived there, they called it Marlton, but we've been doing that for many years. More of a family tradition, but no, am I really that much in the fireworks? Not really. I'm still kind of afraid of them.
Amen. RB12, what's up, motherfuckers? I just want to say I make all the money and get all the girls. I can bench press 500 pounds. Oops, sorry, wrong chat. Any thoughts on Houston, Seattle? No. And RB, is that Ross Benjamin 12? I think it might be. How about that? Ross Benjamin can bench press 500 pounds. I don't know if I believe that, but very surprising.
He's a knowledgeable guy. Knowledgeable guy, Ross.
What else do we have here? Yeah, I hate fireworks, Vig Simon. Not a fan. Vig Simon, Joe, saying hello. Say hello to Vig Simon. I guess he's a fan of yours.
Thank you, Big Simon.
Back with the Peter Loshak days. The rest of his call I agree with. As far as Jordan Bell, we talked about that. He mentioned, Joe. Joe, I've made a ton of money betting on Ireland soccer this year and Scottish soccer, which I went today and had 2 more winners. You need to get on my Scottish soccer, Joe.
Look, I was telling you before, I love soccer. I wish I had a little bit more time to handicap it growing up. I watched it, and there is no question about it that the big man on campus is the greatest Scottish soccer handicapper I've ever known.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very much, I really appreciate that. I'm a big Irish guy, and I like my favorite teams, Cork City and Celtic. They're my favorite, so I appreciate that. What happened to Lawrence Sturcio? I believe he's on some kind of vacation right now. That's why he hasn't been online. I'm sure he'll be back next week. But, Joe, that is it. We have to jump off here. I have to go get a haircut here at about 11:30 Eastern. Yes, I do get a haircut late. We've talked about that before. I live, Joe, I don't live in a particularly bad neighborhood, but my town that I live in is a particularly bad neighborhood, and I don't trust I don't like getting a haircut when anyone can walk in. It's the old Albert Anastasia thing where I don't want to, he got shot in the barber chair, you know what I mean? Or stabbed or whatever. And I have a weird premonition of being kind of a target. You know what I mean?
Not particularly. No. Maybe we got to talk about this someday. I've never thought about that when I've gone into the barbers. I live in a pretty safe neighborhood. We talked before. The FBI was through it about a week ago, I guess. But yeah, I guess I live in the safe suburbs of Atlanta.
No, I'm only kidding.
No.
This is kind of when I preferably like to go. I like to kind of chat my barber and stuff. And Joe, real quick, have you ever heard the story about one of the barbers at my barbershop?
I have not, but I'm trying. I guess as a suburban boy, I'm shocked that you can find a barber that is open at 11 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah. It's a spot in Lancashire that, my barber's a hard worker. But real quick, the story is a couple weeks ago, I was at the barbershop late, and Houston, the Astros were playing. And up here, we have bodegas that take bets. You can go in and do tickets and all sorts of things. There's a barber that I know that works the barbershop. He's a friend of mine. He's currently incarcerated at Lancaster County Prison. Lancaster County Prison is in the middle of Lancaster. So this barber gets off for work release every day at 10 o'clock East, early in the morning, 10 o'clock. He goes to the barbershop, works all day, and then goes back to prison at 10 o'clock Eastern. So during the day, he goes in and makes his bets for the day. So I'm at the barbershop. He has a ticket there. It's like a heavy parlay. He needs one more game. It's like 30-1 or some shit. He calls me on the phone. This is a collect call from an inmate at Lancaster County Prison. Do you accept? I hit yes. He goes, yo, what's the score of the Houston game? I tell him 3-0. He hangs up, and that was it.
Well, and you're going to see him with a sharp object in his hands.
No, he ended up winning, luckily.
Oh, okay.
It was very good. Vig Simon, I'm scared at this point. Don't be. I'm a nocturnal guy. I enjoy barbershops like that. I'm not going bald, but everyone have a great night. I got to jump off. Joe Duffy, thanks for everything. Head on over to Offshore Insiders, as always, to opine on everything that Joe has going on. He's a long-term veteran in this business, and I enjoy doing the shows with him. Joe, any last words tonight?
Visit me at offshoreinsiders.com. I've actually done a couple videos with some long-term handicapping theories as well on my YouTube channel, which is /Offshore Insiders, and we link to it on the front page. But yeah, visit us at offshoreinsiders.com. We're going to give you a lot more winners than losers.
I agree with that. We'll be back tomorrow, Donnie Right Side Night, 12:30 p.m. Isn't it 11 p.m.? Who's open at 11? Yeah, it is. But I'll take a picture when we go there, and I'll show you why it's open that late. Everyone have a great night. See you at 12:30 tomorrow. Joe, thanks again.
All right, Jeff. Much appreciated.
See you later, buddy.